So an opening poem to celebrate the 5th year anniversary of Washington Home Care in Litchfield County. The following poem is dedicated to women who are paid to provide non-medical care, Homemaker Companion services in the home setting. First and foremost to my sister Heather, and to the following women who've accepted Homemaker Companion assignments within Washington Home Care: Dana, Rosa, Athleen, Maria, Kristen, Michelle, Janice, Myra, Mary Beth, Jay, Diane, Mumbi, Nema, Sunny, Teresa, Isabel, Elna, Agnes, Christina, Jane, Shay, Charlotte, Isabel, Elizabeth, Deborah, Joyce, Brenda, Shelley-Ann, and Suzanne. In the gentle glow of a welcoming home, she stands. In her hands, a promise is sown. A healer, a nurturer, with a heart full of grace. In the world of home health care, she finds her place. Women like she are more than they seem. Weaving threads of care, they fulfill the dream. With compassion, they enter spaces unseen. Shaping futures, they make life serene. Her steps carry kindness. Her words soothe the soul. A beacon of hope. She plays a vital role. In the quiet moments, her strength shines bright. A guardian of health in the still of night. She smiles, a source of comfort and cheer, uplifting spirits, erasing fear. With skill and empathy, she tends and she mends. In her, each client finds a friend. Through laughter and tears, she is a guiding light. In her gentle touch, the world feels right. For the women in home health care, this tribute rings true. In the heart of her, the magic is you.
Welcome everybody to Speak Your Mind. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Give it up for our feature, Sara Tremblay Guillemette. Guillemette, yeah. So before we get into getting to know you a little bit, folks at home, you know what time this is if you've been following our show. This is where you, the audience, get to get involved. So I want you to go ahead and grab a pen and grab a journal because we are going to do a writing prompt. So we'll go ahead and put that writing prompt up on the screen. And as you're grabbing your journal, of course, you can pause the tape and go and get it. This is Write Easy, Writing Easy. So all you're going to do, we're going to write a 5 to 10 line poem about caring for women who care. And you are going to take your journal, line, number it 1 to 10. That's going to make it super duper easy. When you're writing your poem, I don't want you to think about the outcome or what you're going to write about. I want you to just write line to line to line. It's okay if you go over. I did with mine. Usually that's what happens. But 5 lines is just enough to get you started, especially if you're a beginner. If you want to go back to some of our early episodes, I will take you through a brainstorm. We'll do a little meditation to get your creative brain warmed up. So you can find that on there. And we're just going to go right into it. So I wrote something and Sarah wrote something. I like to save the best for last, so I'm going to go first. Again, our prompt is caring for the women who care. I am not a scientist, good at math in the basics, with no sense of direction. The computer defragments how? And what's that button supposed to do? Bring in man, superhero, in the eyes of a capitalism which values steel and wood and punishes trees and water at a caste system, paying pixie dust, patted on the head of a good effort to the waitress, scraping together a federal mandate to third world wages. We can't complain about it. Since I'm supposed to have a husband to drive me to Lowe's for a hammer paid by daddy's credit before wiping the poo off little ones stuck in the wheelchair, waiting for a diaper change, ringing to the bell to trot down the street for help with Grampy, lost in the streets. He can't remember. But no, I am not a scientist, and I lied. I can't do math. But fear made me say it before the Dow drops and all feminine value gets buried with tears wiped in snot on the shoulder of mommy at your bedside. All right, so now, Sarah, I'd love to hear what you wrote. Keep in mind, we just wrote these this week, and you can do it too. And go ahead, Sarah, I would love to hear what you wrote.
Okay. So, in the modest homes where whimpers reign, their quiet strength endures both fatigue and strain. With tender hearts, they bravely stand, a comforting touch, a guiding hand. For a low wage, they give their all, heeding gentle calls from down the hall. Unsung heroes, unwitnessed grace. They bring hope to the weariest place. Their spirits rise, though fortune small, women of courage servicing that call.
Woo! Yeah, everyone give it up for Sarah. Yeah. So that's how easy you can write your own poem. So please do that at home. And Sarah, so I want to introduce you to our audience. So first, before we sort of get into why I brought you here, I want you to tell the folks at home who you are, what your company is, where they can find you.
Okay, so I'm Sarah. I've lived in Litchfield County for 23 years. And 5 years ago, I launched Washington Home Care, which is a Homemaker Companion registry. So I'm a single owner operator of a registry, and the caregivers are members of that registry.
And what does the registry do? So a registry is for people who are caregivers come find you, or people who need care, or both?
Both,
Ah.
yeah. So the registry is, I have a roster of care, so folks who apply to help people in the home setting, wherever that home setting is, with activities of daily living. So this is non-medical Homemaker Companion care in the home setting. They can be certified, CNA, PCA, home health aid, but they're attending to personal care, errands, meal prep, medication reminder, that type of thing. And clients call if they need help, and service providers call if they need work.
And now, is this mostly elderly, or is just anyone who needs some home care?
Yeah, so I'm registered in the state of Connecticut for anyone 18 or older.
Okay.
It is mostly elderly.
Okay.
But it can be folks with disabilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is your website? How can they get a hold of you? Your social media handles? We want to make sure that you folks at home can find Sarah and get the help that you need, or get the work that you need.
Yeah, so WashingtonCTHomeCare.com is the website, and on Facebook, Washington Home Care, and that feeds into Instagram.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Now I want to share with you why I wanted you here.
Yeah.
First and foremost, when I met you, I can tell that you are a creative person. Mm-hmm. And whenever I meet creative people, especially women, I'm like, oh, I bet they're a writer. Or if they're not, I bet I can draw the creative essence out of them. So, so that, of course, we're here as writers, poets, storytellers, lyrical essayists, to share their work, but also to share a bigger mission. Mm-hmm. And for me, what inspired me about the type of work that you do, or how you do your work, your business model, is that you are tapping into what I think is really needed, especially this time in history, but throughout history, is women's wages. So that's an issue that's near and dear to my heart, for many, many reasons. I just recently wrote a poem and spoke at the Women's March about women's wages and work. Okay. And I'm myself affected by it. In, I think, the feminist revolution, which was so great in getting women empowered, but I kind of think it's myopic, it's narrow-minded, where we sort of force women to sort of go into typically male-dominated industries, which is great, like science and math, which we do need women in those industries, or investment banking or technology. Wonderful. Fabulous, get more women into it. But at the same time, yin-yang, I believe in yin-yang. Yeah. What men are good at, we should be encouraging men to actualize that. What women are good at, we should be encouraging women to actualize that. Yeah. But unfortunately, in these fields that women do, we're not being paid, we're not being valued. And that, for me personally, is education and the service industry. I work in hospitality, I also work with special needs kids. Yeah. And we're grossly underpaid.
Yeah.
But the umbrella, and folks at home, you can tell me other industries as well. Obviously, home health care. Women are the nurturers. We're naturally caring. We're supposed to be doing this work. So why aren't we being valued for it? And so that's why I wanted to bring you on and have you talk about what you're doing. And a couple of questions I want to know. One, what inspired you to take on this issue? How are you able to do it? And how can you encourage other business owners, especially small business owners who say, I can't afford it, can't afford to pay these people a fair living wage? How you've been very successful and able to do it. How can you encourage them to do the same thing?
So I will say, home care delivery, non-medical home care delivery happens in maybe 3 ways. So if I were, for example, maybe speaking at a senior center, I would say something like, there's really 3 ways to go about this. You can ask your friends and neighbors or your relatives who they've hired in the past and how that's worked out for them. And you can directly hire. That's called private duty care. So that's one way. It's a lot of responsibility on the family care coordinator, but it's in rural areas, it really can work. The second way is employment model agency, and there's an absolute need for the employment model agencies. It's not what I run, but these are the agencies that might be larger and they can respond very quickly to the calls from hospitals and home health centers or skilled nursing facilities that are discharging back to the home setting. So these are, Homemaker Companion agencies that are employment model have schedulers and HR directors and someone on call 24/7. So there's certainly a place for those. And I would say, I think it's between 90 and 95% of all HCAs in Connecticut are hourly, their employment model, okay? The reason I opened a registry is because I'm creeping towards the northwest corner. So it's a really rural area. People need a livable wage to afford to commute to that area or live in that area, more importantly. So the registry model, my client hires them directly, and they hire them interim as a 1099, which is not ideal long term. Longer term, it's best if my client puts them on domestic payroll. So they may have others on domestic payroll that are supporting them. They're gardeners, or if they've got an estate, they've got quite a few people already on domestic payroll. So that's what I encourage. Otherwise, Homemaker Companion registries are independent contractor models, and they have their pros and their cons. Their pros are, if the caregivers are earning a higher wage, they're likely to offer continuity of care. They're likely to be dependable, and want a very secure schedule and show up and be dependable. If they're earning a lesser wage, closer to minimum wage or minimum wage plus $5 an hour, which is what the employment model supports, it is super challenging for them to find enough hours to live properly in Connecticut. So while all 3 models are absolutely necessary, we need people to be asking their neighbors too, have you ever had a private duty in the home setting? Who are they? And can anyone else vouch for them? In the registry, the benefit is I offer very thorough backgrounds. Yeah. They're all described on my website.
Yeah. Yeah, and and I love that you did bring up, gardeners, because even though we're zeroing on women's issues, this is something that could be translated to all working class people, because there is sort of those you talk about unsung heroes, or the people who are under the radar who are burnt out. They're not getting a living wage, and that ultimately is going to affect productivity. I know with me, I worked in a residential school, working very long hours. I worked respite, where we would do mandatory overnights, with like 16, 17, 32-hour days. And it was so hard. Like when I was young, I could do it because I'm like, that's what you have to do. But then you get to a certain point in your life where you're like, this is not not only is it not sustainable, I'm not supporting myself. And I can't believe how much backlash I get from a lot of people, not just like employers, but even people who do this work that this is the job, this is what you have to do. But burnout is real. I got so burnt out. And even, just in interviewing with jobs in places where they're in hospitality especially, where no, you're not supposed to take a break. This is the job. And it's like, do you realize that I am 10 times more productive for you if I just can stop and have a meal.
Yeah.
You know, if I can keep my hours into, you know, when you're doing physical manual labor, like a 5, 6, 7 hour shift feels like a 10-hour shift.
Yeah.
So keeping that shift shorter, you're going to get better workers. You may have more of them, but they're going to be producing so much more for you in your bottom line.
And less liability, less workman's comp claims.
Liability, so many accidents and mistakes. And real quick, I'm curious your thoughts about, like, you know, why, let me just backtrack a little bit. And the reason why I zero in on women, I don't have children. It's still very hard for me. But the women I work with at the school, you know, they're taking care of children. They can't afford daycare, but they need a schedule where it works where they're home with their kids after school. And they're really being very taxed. Their heart is torn between going out and having that high-powered job, but having nannies and not seeing their kids, and then being able to nurture their kids in the right way. And I've worked in a very affluent area where it's all, both the parents work in New York. It's nannies and au pairs, picking them up. They have before school and after school. I work with special needs kids, mostly kids with aggressive disorder, sensory issues, and I've seen a rise in it as both parents are out of the home and high-powered jobs. So there is a backlash of what the kids are going through. So there's always going to be some sort of negative impact when we're not looking at what the kids are doing. And so I'm curious if you know or what you have seen that is contributing to this, or maybe like just your thoughts. I'm just curious on your opinion on it.
What comes to mind for me is to really maybe tell you, first of all, there are men that work in this industry, and it's a delight when they are willing to. So I have a few men who work in the roster of care, and they are highly coveted. And if I could attract and retain more men working in home care, especially for the men who are still really active, who want a companion but may have memory loss, I would be delighted to recruit more men. It's they usually have firmer boundaries. They usually have much firmer boundaries. So if something's available, terrific. They won't stay and wait very long, of course, and they are extremely strict about their availability.
I love that, and just to close this conversation out, I do want to highlight that you said that, because I say this all the time, especially at the elementary level. We need men in the classroom because kids need role models, and they can't just have women role models, they need men role models. But men don't tend to do that job because it pays so low, and they have stricter boundaries. And that's unfortunate, because we're cheating our kids, we're cheating our elderly, we're cheating our disabled people.
We can learn from the men.
We can learn from the men. It's so true. So I have to have you back to have a deeper conversation about this, because I think we just sort of like took the lid off of something that is super duper important. And so I want to thank you so much for being here. So folks at home, I want you to follow us on Facebook, Speak Your Mind. Go to YouTube, subscribe, like Speak Your Mind Community Television to watch this episode over and over again. Share it, because this is important stuff we're talking about. But I also want you to throw up your poetry, your poems, your stories up on the Facebook group. I want to hear from you. I want to see your creativity, because it's all about you. And Sarah is you're going to read some more for us, correct? Yeah, so do not go anywhere. Stay tuned for more from our featured artist.
How to support women who work as professional caregivers. Emotional support. Listen to their stories. Offer empathy. Remind them that it's okay to feel stressed or overwhelmed at times. Time off. Encourage regular breaks and time away, which can help prevent burnout and maintain mental well-being. Physical health. Suggest regular checkups, exercise, and healthy eating to maintain their physical health. Resources. Provide information or access to hyperlocal resources such as support groups, therapy, or stress management programs. Recognition. Show appreciation for their efforts with simple gestures like thank you notes, or a gift, or a call, or a text. Help with tasks. Offer to help with some of the responsibilities, whether it's running errands, household chores, or providing them with some free time. Create a support network, encouraging building of a network of friends and or family who can provide support or share the caregiving responsibilities. And financial support. Assist with the understanding and accessing of financial support or benefits that they might be entitled to.